everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am here to bring you guys my April reading plans, or TBR. I'm very much in a historical romance mood at the moment, mainly because I binged season 2 of Bridgerton on Netflix, and so that has sent me down a rabbit hole of just wanting to read all of the historical romances. So there's going to be quite a few of those on this TBR. I mean, historical romances are arguably my favorite genre, my favorite subgenre of romance. And yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump on in to this TBR. I'll talk about the books that I own physically, and then I'll also get to some ebooks that I really want to get to as well. So I have this little stack of historical romances here. First one we have is Bound to a Warrior by Donna Fletcher. We need to appreciate this cover together because it's like one of the most beautiful covers ever. I just love these, like, the painted style of historical romance covers, and I wish that they were still doing covers like this, but they don't anymore. Not really, at least. But this is a book that has been on my historical romance radar for a while, and this also was featured in my 25 books I want to read in 2022 video. So this is a Scottish romance. I want to say this is also maybe a medieval era romance. I'm actually not really sure, but I'll read a little bit of the back cover. It says, charged with the restoration of Scotland's one true king, Duncan MacAlpin isn't surprised to find himself fleeing an army across the verdant hills of his homeland, but having to do so while shackled to a woman, that is a true challenge to Duncan's ingenuity and self-control. For the lovely untouched maiden he is chained to is far too captivating to resist. And then it sounds like Mercy, our heroine, has some dangerous secrets, and so she's being hunted as well, and that's kind of why they're shackled to one another, I think. And I've just heard really great things about this one. I know that Jen from the Book Refuge is a big fan of Donna Fletcher's historical romances, so I'm hoping to find a new favorite historical romance author, maybe. We'll just have to see. Next up, we have A Duke in Disguise by Cat Sebastian. So I have been meaning to get back to Cat Sebastian. I have read quite a few of her historical romances and have truly enjoyed all of them that I've read. I think I've read like 4 of her books at this point, and yeah, they're great LGBTQ plus comedic historical romances as well, though they definitely have like some depth and drama and more serious themes as well. But this one is technically book 2 in her, I think it's like Regency Imposter series. I read book 1 in this series, which is Unmasked by the Marquis, early last year, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. And so I just wanted to continue on with the series. But also Samantha from Books with Samantha, she's a really good bookish friend of mine. She absolutely adores this book, and we have very similar reading tastes, like to the point where it's kind of scary. Like, Samantha and I have talked about this, like it's a little too much how much like our reading tastes align. But I'll read a little bit of the back of this one because I can't quite remember the plot anymore. But it says, if anyone else had asked for his help publishing a naughty novel, Ash would have had the sense to say no, but he's never been able to deny Verity Plum. So I think they are childhood friends to lovers, like that's the situation we've got going on. Now he has his hands full illustrating a book and trying his damnedest not to fall in love with his best friend. The last thing he needs is to discover he's a duke's lost heir. Without a family or a proper education, he's had to fight for his place in the world, and the idea of it, and Verity being taken away from him, chills him to the bone. Oh my god, this sounds like so fun because Verity is an author, and it sounds like maybe she writes erotica and he's helping her out with that, and it sounds like it's going to be a really sweet friends to lovers romance as well. So I'm just excited. Also, I love this cover. Like, it's so springy to me because of the color of her dress. I'm here for that. So next up, I am planning on reading the last 2 books in Joanna Shupe's Uptown Girl series. So a couple weeks ago, I reread The Rogue of Fifth Avenue, and I adored that book even more upon reread. I think the first time that I read it, I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it, but this time around, I gave it 5 stars. And now I need to reread the other 2 books in this series because I gave both of these 5 stars the first time that I read them. So I know that I'm gonna have a good time time. So this one, The Prince of Broadway, is my personal favorite of the 3 books, though I'm interested to see if my opinion changes after my reread. But this one's about Florence, and she's kind of like the black sheep of the family. This series centers around 3 sisters. In Gilded Age New York, of course, because it is Joanna Shupe. And so she wants to open her own casino for women. During this time period, women weren't allowed in casinos. And so she starts basically bothering Clayton, who is the owner of this casino that she keeps sneaking into, and things go on from there. There are some very iconic scenes that I still remember to this day from when I read this back in 2020. And then we have The Devil of Downtown, the 3rd and final book. This is about Justine, the youngest of the 3 sisters, and Jack Mulligan, who is arguably my favorite Joanna Shupe hero. I don't know, is he? I love him so much. I love that Joanna Shupe writes like these self-made men heroes, and Jack is definitely a morally gray hero, as is Clayton, and we love to see that as well. There's also an iconic scene in this where they go bowling because Jack has his own bowling alley in his house. And yeah, it's just, it's fantastic. Can't wait to reread these for sure. Then I just have, this is a really random book I feel like to add on to my TBR, but this was also featured in my 25 books I want to read in 2022 video. That is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read quite a few books by this author at this point. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of her. Because of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Daisy Jones and the Six. I personally adore those books, but I wanted to dive a little bit more into her backlist. This one, it is a fiction novel, but it does have a very strong, like, romance-centered plot. There's a love triangle going on, I believe. Yeah, it's about Emma. She marries her high school sweetheart, Jesse. Yeah, he ends up going missing over the Pacific. And so he's just been gone for years. And so now she's in her 30s. She runs into an old friend, Sam, and she finds herself falling in love again, which is all well and great and everything, except that Jesse comes back home. So now we've got this love triangle going on. Now she has a husband and a fiance, but who is her one true love? So I have like a love-hate relationship with love triangles at this point, because I would much prefer to read like a poly romance, if I'm being honest with you guys. But I mean, it's Taylor Jenkins Reid. I trust her. So I'm still very much looking forward to this one, and I've heard really good things about this one overall. So for the last of my physical books, in April, we are starting the SJM-along, so the Sarah J. Maas read-along that Jen from the Book Refuge has organized. And so I am so excited about this, because I have been planning on rereading her Throne of Glass series for a while. I read it for the first time in 2019. It was like a year-long project for me, because I was reading a book a month from it, from that series basically. And so yeah, Jen contacted me and asked me if I wanted to be like a host or a co-host for some of these live shows. And so in April, there are going to be 2 live shows. I'm not guest hosting for either of them, but I am going to be reading the books that the live shows are centering around. So I believe April 16th is going to be a live show for, we have Throne of Glass, the first book in the Throne of Glass series, and they are also going to be covering the first novella in The Assassin's Blade, which is a bind up of 5 prequel novellas in the Throne of Glass series. So let me see here. The first novella, I'm trying to see, yes. The first novella is called The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. So that first novella is going to be covered in the live show that is also going to be covering Throne of Glass. And then there is also another live show, I believe April 30th. I'm gonna put the correct dates and information down in the description, but I believe it's April 30th. That's going to be for Crown of Midnight, which is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series. And that live show is also going to be covering The Assassin and the Healer, which is the second novella in this bind up. It's also the shortest novella of the bind up. So yeah, I'm going to be reading the first 2 novellas in this bind up, as well as both Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, and I am so excited to be tuning in to those live shows. And then going forward, the plan is to read, I believe, a book a month from Sarah J. Maas in publication order. So I know in May we're reading Heir of Fire. I am going to be a guest host for that live show, which is really exciting. And then I believe starting in the summer, it's going to be kind of alternating between Throne of Glass and ACOTAR because those series were being published around the same time. So yeah, I'm just super, super excited. Like I said, I've been dying to reread the Throne of Glass series because it's been like 3 years at this point, and it is one of my favorite series of all time, and I can't wait to see if my opinions change in terms of like what my favorite book of the series is, what my least favorite book of the series is, all of that. I mean, I adore this world, these characters. I mean, this is the series that made me fall in love with Sarah J. Maas because I didn't read ACOTAR until well after finishing this series. So I'm just so excited. And thank you so much, Jen, for organizing this whole thing. I am so excited that she asked me to be a guest host, and I am hosting a couple of the live shows that are happening later on in the year. So I will definitely keep you guys in the loop about that. And just so you guys know, this is a read-along that's happening over the course of an entire year, actually, because it's going to end in March of 2023 with A House of Sky and Breath, which of course is her most recent release. So now I'm going to be getting into books that I don't physically own. I'm gonna borrow ebook copies of these from my library, audiobooks, things like that. First one is The Duke's Perfect Wife by Jennifer Ashley. I am so excited about this book. I am finally getting to Hart's book, who is the Duke of the Mackenzie clan, the Mackenzie family. It took me a second to think about that. But yeah, this is book 4 in Jennifer Ashley's Mackenzie McBride's series. I've really been enjoying the 3 books that I have read of the series so far, and I'm just so excited to get into Hart's POV. He is such a mysterious and like brooding character, and I cannot wait to see him get his happily ever after, because there's just been a lot going on in his life that we've seen in the 3 previous books, and I've just heard nothing but phenomenal things about this, and oh, I'm just so excited. Next, okay, I am dying to finally read more from Courtney Milan. I read The Duke Who Didn't, like, in January of 2020. I loved that book. I read one of her novellas. I think it was Unlocked. Loved that as well. So I know I love her writing style, but for some reason her books just keep falling to the back burner, like in terms of my historical romance TBR. But I am making it happen this month. I'm gonna read The Duchess War. I already have the audiobook for this one. Unfortunately, a lot of her audiobooks are only from Audible. So I did get this one when Audible was having a sale recently. But I've heard amazing things about this one. This is book 1 in a series, and yeah, I can't wait to dive into her backlist, because she actually has quite the backlist. Not only does she have this series, there's another series, I'm imagining the covers in my head right now, that I really want to get to, and she writes quite a few novellas as well that I've heard really awesome things about as well. So yeah, I just need to get going on her backlist for sure. Next up, we have the Hathaway series by Lisa Kleypas. I am so excited about this series. I did really recently read Mine Till Midnight, which is book 1 of the series. This is Cam and Amelia's story. Absolutely loved it. It's like a top tier Lisa Kleypas romance for sure. And then I just finished today Seduce Me at Sunrise, which is book 2. That is Kev and Wynn's story. I also gave that 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. This is a series that I kind of picked up on a whim, just because I've heard a lot of people compare it to the Bridgerton series in that it just has like an awesome family dynamic, and I totally agree with that. Basically, this series centers around 5 siblings, and so each book is going to be each of their romances, and I just adore the dynamic between these 5 characters and their love interests. And yeah, so I'm planning on at least reading Tempt Me at Twilight, which is book 3. I have it on hold from my library, so hopefully that comes in soon. And I am just so excited to read Married by Morning and Love in the Afternoon as well. I think I'll also end up reading those in April as well. I'm so excited. I love this series so much, and I'm kind of mad at myself that it's taken me this long to finally pick up these books, because so many of my friends have just been raving and raving about this series, but I just kept putting it off because I'm an idiot, I guess. I don't know. Next up we have Dare to be a Duchess by Sapna Bog. I apologize if I am mispronouncing the author's name. I tried to look up how to pronounce it and I couldn't find a clear answer. But this one is really exciting because it is, I believe this is a hate to love romance that involves a heroine who is Indian. I believe like one of her parents is Indian and then one of her parents is English. And then of course there's a Duke involved. And I don't really know much about this one except that I got an e-arc of it off of NetGalley some months back. And I found the audiobook on Hoopla, which is exciting. And I've heard some pretty positive things about this one. Like there's a couple of bookstagrammers that I follow that have raved about this one. So really, really looking forward to this one. Next we have Bombshell by Sarah McLean. I have been putting this book off for some reason. I don't know. I've read one of Sarah McLean's more recent books and it wasn't my favorite, and so I've just been kind of turned off from her recent releases, which is dumb, but it is what it is. And so I'm finally reading this one though because I read The Day of the Duchess, which is one of her backlist titles. And we met Cecily and, ooh, is his name Caleb? I can't remember the hero's name, but we met them in The Day of the Duchess and we got to see their dynamic and them maybe kind of having feelings for one another. And so they are going to be the hero and heroine of this book. And so apparently it's some years later, they haven't seen each other for quite some time and now they have come back into each other's lives. And I've just heard that this is a really fun book because there's like this group of women, they're kind of like spies. I think they're called the Hell's Bells, if I'm not mistaken. It just sounds like a really fun time, and I'm curious to see if I will enjoy this recent release from Sarah McLean as much as I adore her older releases. Next up we have Royally Matched by Emma Chase. This is just kind of a random book, but I read the first book of this series well over a year ago at this point, and I remember really being intrigued about the main characters that this book is going to center around. I think this also centers around like a reality show, like a Bachelor style reality show. I'm just really intrigued, and it's just time for me to finally pick up this book. I really don't have much to say about it other than that. Next up we have Lord of Scoundrels by Loretta Chase. I recently mentioned this in a recommendation video that I did where I talked about historical romances that you should read if you love Kate and Anthony from The Viscount Who Loved Me. And I realized while talking about this book that I think it's been like 3 years since I read this book. And at the time, I remember giving it like 4.5 stars, and I just think I'm gonna love this book so much more upon reread. This is a hate to love marriage of convenience, and I just remember the heroine being a badass. She literally shoots the hero at some point. And they just have amazing banter, and I love Loretta Chase's writing. I also just need to read more from this author in general. I've only read 2 of her books and I loved both of them, so like what's wrong with me? I need to read more of her backlist for sure. This is kind of a random book, but I really want to read Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. This is a sapphic romance that came out pretty recently and it's been getting amazing reviews, and I have been meaning to read more sapphic romances. I haven't found that many that I've really enjoyed. So I'm hoping that this one delivers. I already know that I adore Ashley Herring Blake's writing because I read Girl Made of Stars a few years back. That's one of her YA novels. She writes mostly like middle grade and YA. So to see her come out with an adult romance is so exciting. I've also heard that this is like a redeemed bully romance, and one of the heroines has like a bunch of tattoos. She's kind of edgy. I'm just really excited. I've heard, like I said, I've heard nothing but phenomenal things about this book. Let's see, and then I just have a couple books left. I have Not My Type by Evie Mitchell. I saw that the audiobook was available on my Libby app, which is an app that libraries use. So yeah, I just put a hold on it, and it's supposed to come in really soon. I've been meaning to check out this author's works. Bree from In Love and Words raves and raves about her books, especially this one in particular. I love that we have a heroine who is a wheelchair user. This also involves BDSM and shibari, which is the art of rope tying essentially. So really looking forward to that one. And then last but not least, I have Not the Witch You Wed by April Asher, I believe is the author. This is another e-arc that I got off of NetGalley some months back. This is a paranormal romance, sounds like a rom-com. It's an interesting plot as well. I think it's kind of a hate to love where the hero and heroine are like fake mated to each other. There's like rules in this world and in this society to where being mated to each other would benefit the both of them. And so it's like a twist on the fake dating trope, fake mating. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how that plays out. I've heard pretty positive things about this one as well, and I really love this cover. I mean, purple's my favorite color, and it's just like adorable. So that is going to be it for my April reading plans. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to tell me about the books that you plan on reading in April. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!